Hey, Shalom, welcome to the Karmak Pash from Jim London, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashav Chakwadash. When I give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing this truth in all sincerity. Back again with another video. I'm going to call this one Corruption is Systemic, or something along those lines, right? And I've got this article here from The Guardian, UK paper, right? And it says here, Freemasons seek injunction against Met policy requiring officers to declare membership. And like we keep telling you, man, these wicked elite have got their fingers and thumbs and everything in all the pies, in all these systems that operate around around the world, right? They got people in high up places, okay, making sure certain things go the way that they want it to, right? It's not that everybody that's in these organizations is aware of it or part of it, but they have people where it's important for them to have guys in certain places, right, to be able to manipulate and control things, right? And as this moment in time from this article, that these intra these organizations within organizations, right? I.e., like the Freemasons. All right, these are groups that these elites use, to pull strings in these different places, right? To cover up shit, and so on and so forth, right? And they're being kind of put in the spotlight a little bit, right? With things that have recently been happening. So let me read some of this article, right? It says, exclusive organization accuses Sir Mark Rowley of religious discrimination and whipping up conspiracy theories, right? And because you all know, we speak about the Freemasons and the Illuminati and all these different types of groups here, right? Okay, they're all, hidden and stuck in all these different places where they can manipulate and control. That's the conspiracy theory. All right, but we know for a fact that these elites, they are pulling strings. They are pulling strings in these different organizations, wherever they want to call themselves, whatever banner they're flying under or whatever status that they have in these groups, whatever whatever the case may be. Elites have their plants in all these different places, handling things for them, right? And it's usually a secretive organizations, and we always talk about things like the Skull and Bones and all these different fraternities, all these different groups that exist, right? Like I said, it's not just in the UK, all over the world, right? It was all these different groups that are set up to control and manipulate these different industries and different places, right? Yeah, they're feigning discrimination, right? So they get it's just saying when the small hats talk about anti-Semitisms or whatever, right? It's something they throw out to protect themselves with, because you're being hateful or whatever the case may be, and they use these things to deter people from speaking against them, right? So they can continue doing their bullshit, right? So they're feigning religious discrimination, right? And talking conspiracy theories, right? But you don't really want a group like this inside these in these different organizations, right? Because they have a conflict of interests, right? And so they're never gonna serve that that organization in its entirety, right? They'll put their little group over their place of work, or the law and all these types of things, right? So it says Freemasons have demanded an emergency injunction from the High Court to halt the Metropolitan Police's new policy that orders officers to tell their bosses if they are members of the organization, right? So they just want them to declare whether or not they're part of it or not, right? And this is not the first time this has been asked, right? It's been asked before. These guys, put it out in the open, right? Which they all refuse to, really, right? So to tell their bosses if they are members of the organization, right? So the Freemasons filed papers in London on Christmas Eve and claimed the Met's policy amounts to religious discrimination against Freemasons who are also police officers, right? So you got Freemasons in the police force, right? You got Freemasons and, like I said, these different equivalent groups everywhere, right? And it's funny because like I said, it's not just in the police force; it's in the judicial system too, right? So they've filed to the higher court. Well, guess what? Guess whose paper that's gonna fall on? Someone that's in the group, no doubt, right? And they'll throw it out, right? Because they have all these friends in these different types of places, right? So it's a bit like, you know, it's a bit bullshit at the end of the day, man. What's gonna come of it? You know. So they say that the Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, is making up the law on the hoof, right? Whatever that is, whatever that means, right? On the go, and accused his force of whipping up conspiracy theories about the influence of the Freemasons. Yeah, because when you, if you ever spoken to one, right? I've spoken to a few over the years, right? Work for some and all that kind of stuff, right? They're just like the most peaceful people ever. They're here trying to save the world, doing charity work and philanthropy work and all this type of stuff. Yeah, they ain't doing nothing evil and nefarious. It's all charitable organizations. We just got a couple secret handshakes and some shit, right? That's how they play it, right? They're just here doing God's work, good work, or whatever, right? But we know why so secret? Why so secret? Anyway, says the Met has vowed to fight back as it sees the policy as part of its fight to restore trust and credibility, and a case currently under investigation involves claims of Masonic influence and alleged wrongdoing, right? Because they're sabotaging certain investigations and whatever on certain people and all that. And this is why people like Jimmy Savile was able to go walking around doing what he was doing for all these years, man, because he was being protected by certain people. Certain people that might have been investigating into it were told to shut the case or don't bother look into it, blah 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 blah. All these things from the higher ups. They get blocked. All right, so this is why these certain people can go around doing what they do. Right, you wonder how these how these people get away with it. It's because of these types of groups that exist, these elites that have got these guys in these certain different places, the Epsteins of the world and all this kind of stuff. And when they're ready to hang them out to dry, yeah, sure, they'll hang them out to dry, and then they blame everything on that person, and it doesn't get searched into anymore. All these Pizzagate scandals and all this stuff, it doesn't get searched into anymore. They'll just blame somebody and they'll move on, even though the rot is greater. It's far greater than what they're tossing up in the public, for the public, But this is how they do it, right? And then so you've got actors in that, whether this guy's really trying to investigate or he's not trying to investigate, or he's trying to do something right and blah 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 blah. These guys are all, you can't trust none of them, man. It says in December, the Met said anyone who was part or had been a member of a hierarchical organization that requires members to support and protect each other must declare it, right? Because there's conflict of interest, right? So you're aware there's going to be questioned now in certain situations if another member of the same group, is, in the fire line or something. Your testimony might not, be able to be used, right? Because you'll lie, you will lie. Right, you won't uphold the law. You won't do none of this stuff. Right, you will lie because of the the group. The force says a survey of its officers and staff showed that 2/3 backed the restriction because it affects public perception of police impartiality. There have also been past claims that Masonic membership could be linked to corruption. 100%. Right. Adrian Marsh, the chief executive of the Grand Lodge, right, said he expects the hearing about the injunction will be heard by next month, if not sooner. An order, if granted by a senior judge, right, would halt the new policy pending a full hearing of judicial review where the Freemasons will seek its scrapping. The Freemasons allege the policy introduced in December amounts to religious discrimination and its members are required to have religious faith, right, because they all claim they worship and follow God or the God of the Bible. But when you dive deeper into it, that's not the case. They also say the Met has effectively admitted there is a need for fuller consultation. Right, right. They caught them up on something, right? So it says Marsh said they did not have an effective consultation before they announced the policy, which came into immediate effect. The policy is illegal, so they kind of fucked up already. By putting this in place without the consultation, they already fucked up. So it's like a loophole, that they got to meet before they did this, and they didn't do it. So they were kind of in a a poor position anyway, right? The policy is illegal, unfair, and discriminatory. It breaches the human rights of our members. He added, to date, the consultation process has been wholly inadequate, prejudicial, and unjust, and this injunction is the first step we must resort to protect our members whose integrity is impunged by the Met decision. Actions under human rights law stand a better chance of success if they claim unfairness against someone because of a protected characteristic, such as race, religious beliefs, or sexual orientation. The Freemasons say this applies to them. Marsh said the fact that you have to have faith to be a Freemason does make it a protected characteristic under human rights law. Freemasons say legal correspondence from the Met's lawyers showed the force agreeing to a fuller consultation about the new policy. Marsh said he did not know if the Met officers who were also Masons were declaring memberships to their managers. Our advice to them is to discuss any concerns with the Police Federation who are strongly against this policy. Let's see. A Metropolitan Police spokesperson said, "We are aware of the judicial review launched, challenging our change to the declarable association policy. We will be defending this." So the changes to our declarable associations policy were made following feedback that involvement in these types of organizations could call impartiality into question or give rise to conflict of loyalties, right? That's exactly what it does, right? We won't be commenting further while proceedings are ongoing. The issue of Freemasons in the Met has been long running, but previous commissioners have either thought tougher rules were not justified or not worth the pain. That's what it's going to boil down, not worth the pain, because these men, like I said, they could be anywhere. You wouldn't know. Certain men in power, that have higher rank and all these different types of things, you might find yourself out of the job or whatever, or you might find yourself in a sting that involves you, right? That you get framed for doing some madness, and then you end up in prison or wherever, or dead, or wherever the case may be. You're sent on the drug bus, but the drug bus know you're coming, so they're ready for you, man. Or whatever. These man, you know what I'm saying? These guys, you don't want to mess with these guys, right? So yeah, it's not worth the pain. Most people drop shit. Don't press on the matter if they see something's funny, The Guardian also understands that a recent case of alleged wrongdoing in the force contains allegations that acts under investigation may be linked to Freemasonry. The Met has held intelligence for years of potential corruption linked to personal relationships formed through membership of the Freemasons, but nothing has been proven to a criminal standard, right? Shit gets scrubbed, buried, you can't definitively pin these things down. The issue has dog policing with numerous allegations that Freemasonry membership has led to people covering up for wrongdoing in keeping the organization's credo that members stand by one another. Right? The official inquiry into a 1987 murder of private investigator Daniel Morgan and police corruption that hampered the hunt to find his killers recommended tighter rules on Freemasons in policing. So it noted one detective involved was a Freemason who later went to work with a prime suspect, and that 10 police officers who were prominent in the Daniel Morgan murder investigations were Freemasons. But it also stated the panel has not seen evidence that Masonic channels were corruptly used in the connection with either the commission of the murder or to subvert the police investigations. Police lodges have been set up, such as the Manor of St. James's for Met officers, and Sion Favor, which was set up in 2010 by Police Federation members. All right. So yeah, that's it. These men are dotted about everywhere, doing the bidding of these elites, basically. In their agendas, right? But the light's been put on them a little bit, right? But they're everywhere in all these different facets of society. That's the whole point. They're meant to infiltrate and control, right? Because they set up these systems. Yeah, they don't. The system's not here for everybody, right? It's really, for these elites, right, to do what they're doing, right? They use these things to protect themselves and to punish others, all right? And so they need, these certain guys in certain positions to, kind of control what goes on in it, right? That's what it boils down to, right? So the corruption is systemic. Systemic. It's built throughout this whole system. All right, but let's get some scriptures now, right? I want to start here in Psalms 58, verse 1. It says, to the chief musician, Altashef, Mitchell of David, do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do you judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? No, they judge according to how they feel. You know, they'll happily break rules that they set. Esau called himself Christian and called himself a Christian country, right? And will swear himself on the Bible, but he won't uphold none of the laws or won't uphold the laws of the scriptures. He'll make his own laws. Like, that's what he's done. He's made his own laws. The Bible is not adequate to him. And, he's changed a whole bunch of shit. Right? But even his own law that he sets up, he doesn't stick by it. When it suits him, he'll break it, he'll bend it. The law is for the common person, right? To be punished, right? To pay your taxes, to pay your fines, and all these different types of shit, right? To punish you, right? When it suits them, they won't, the law don't apply to them. These men are above the law, right? They'll get away with shit that you won't get away with, right? It says, yea, in heart ye work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth, right? So the wicked are estranged from the womb, they go astray as soon as they be born speaking lies, right? These are nothing but liars, right? And there's nothing worse than a liar, in control of things, right? Because you feel like, oh, he's to promote a fair system, equality and all these different bullshits, right? But this guy's a liar, right? It's not there. It isn't fair. It's not, not everybody's treated equally in the system, right? It's all bullshit. And like I say, he'll break rules and laws and all these, all these different types of things when it suits him, right? So these guys are just for the shit, basically, right? This is Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 4. It says, therefore the law is slacked and judgment doth never go forth, right? True judgment doesn't go forth, okay, when it needs to, right? Yeah, you get these little cases where obviously, people get some sort of justice, right? But it's not the justice according to the scriptures, right? It's always some, false idea of justice, right? So therefore the law is slacked and judgment doth never go forth, for the wicked doth compass about the righteous, right? Because they're all in these high up places. These people imposing shit on us, man, are the wicked, right? And these wicked ass systems that they set up to oppress us, right? When I say you want to complain or whatever, that's who you got to complain to, and they don't have to hear you. They don't care, right? But like I said, it's them, right? They don't care about the poor, they don't care about the needy, right? So for the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth, right? So when the wicked are in power, right, wrong judgment proceedeth, and that's why there's no real justice in the world. Think about that Lamar track. If there's any justice in the world, right? There's no justice in this world, right? At the very top of things. Right, that's why this world is fucking miserable. Esau doesn't want to come out of power. Esau doesn't want to pay for all the wickedness that he's done, right? So as long as that stays the same, that's how he wants it. So, he ain't never going to judge himself so other people can get justice. No, he'll make sure everybody else between you lot get judged. He'll settle matters between this and that. And like I say, even then, you won't even get, necessarily the right treatment. Based on how he sort of feels at the time. If he's got some other motive at play or whatever, right? But yeah, the wicked are everywhere. And like I said, all up for these police systems and the judicial system and everywhere, right? Banking system everywhere. Education everywhere, right? It's Sirach chapter 10 verse 2 says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, right? There are people that, you got the elite rule the world, right? And they have all these dudes set up in all these different places, right? And they're wicked, and so for their officers that they run everything that are in these different positions, they're wicked as well, because they're here doing the agenda of the elites, right? They all follow after the man of their masters, right? And this, this all kind of trickles down on different levels to the common person, right? the way we operate and shit. But yeah, these officers that work underneath them, man, they're doing the same wickedness, right? So it's just a system for the wickedness, right? So as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein, right? This whole thing is corrupt. These people are corrupt spiritually, mentally, right? These people that you expect to uphold the law, they're all corrupt, right? These people are supposed to protect people, they're corrupt. That's why you can't even, charities, they're corrupt. You can't trust nothing in this world. Everything that's been set up is corrupted by Esau, right? It's all corrupt, right? Nothing in this world works the way it's supposed to work. It's all corrupt, right? And that's because the wicked are in rulership, you know? This is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. So, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and right grievousness which they have prescribed, right? And I said they're in charge of all of this, all these laws and all these systems, right? It says, so these are all unrighteous decrees, right? To turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey and that they may rob the fatherless. That's what the system does. It oppresses our people, man. And yeah, it oppresses the whole world, man. But like we keep telling you, the Lord is really only concerned about his people, okay, his children, the children of Israel, right? And this system is just set up to oppress us, man, right? To destroy us, to break us down, to cause us to, some of us to sell out, right? To corrupt our souls, right? That's what this system's here for. Okay. This is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2. I'm gonna get verse 1 and I'm gonna jump down to 10, right? It says, for the ungodly said, right? Because these are people who are ruling right now. The ungodly, the wicked, said, reason with themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious, and in death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. Right? But jumping down to verse 10, now this is how they view the world. Right? So let us oppress the poor righteous man, right? Our people. Right? This system that they created is set up to oppress our people, man, and to not deliver justice. Right? So let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice, right? So whatever we can enforce and do, that is righteous. That is the law that people would have to bow down to. And that's how Esau goes around the earth. If he's got the means to do it and you can't stop him, then he's going to do it. Doesn't matter what he wrote, what legislation he breaking, it don't matter. He can usurp any of that because he got the strength. No one can make him do anything. On the flip side, we are prey. So we ain't got no choice but to suffer the judgment or whatever it is that Esau wants to put upon us. He can hold us to the law, or his law. He can do that. He has the power to put us to death. He has the power to bring judgment. We don't have no power to bring judgment against him because he's sitting in the power seat. Right? So they can get away with shit that other people can't get away with them because they are who they are. The Most High got them in that position. But that is a corrupt system. It's not fair at all in any type of sense. It's not consistent. So how can you have trust in it? Because you know it's not there to protect you. They're there to protect themselves ultimately. It's there for them to abuse and abuse, right? And that's what it's that's what the same thing with these guys, these Freemasons in these different organizations. They protect each other, right? They'll usurp, the law and all these type of things just to get away with shit. They're abusing the system. I say they're going to take it to a judge. Well, if the judge is a Freemason and he ain't telling you, how do you know that his judgment is just? You don't, right? So you can't trust any of them because they'll just say what's convenient for them because they have the power to, right? It says, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth, right? So if you can't do nothing about it, it's tough, isn't it? Right? It says, therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn. because he's not the rightful ruler in this world. He's not the rightful ruler or judge of this world, right? Because these men are just doing everything in wickedness, right? So we're not for his turn. We're waiting for Yahushua to come, the kingdom of heaven, right, to set up a righteous rulership. Okay, who are the children of Israel, the judges, the kings, the priests, right? That's what is going to be set up in the kingdom of heaven, the children of Israel, right, and oust the wicked out of this world, man. So he's not for our turn, and he is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraided us with our offending the law. They don't care about the law. And objective to our infamy, the transgressions of our education. All right, that's what I want from this. And just one more scripture for a close out. All right, so like I was saying, these guys, because they're in control of what judgments they get or what judgments they don't get, right? They can get away with stuff, right? You keep thinking, oh, how can these people be ruling the world in a secret organization and no one knows and no one can do nothing about it? Well, these guys don't know if they're Freemasons or not, and that's just one organization that they're aware of, but they don't know who's who. They don't know who's a part of what. Them man know each other, of course, right? But they don't. Some of them might not even know, right? But someone higher up would know that, oh, he's in this division, he's in this department or whatever. He knows that he works here and this and that, right? So all they got to do is say, look, man, this guy caught a case right now. Look, I want to make sure that gets thrown out. And the only people that know this are people in that circle. That is it. Nobody else knows. So it's not hard to think that in every organization, there's guys like this pulling strings like that, and nobody knows. Or how can they cover this up, and how can they do this and do that and force like you know what I mean? How this is how. You don't need bare man to do all this, right? You just need people in certain positions, enough man in certain positions. That's all it takes, and that's what the elites have. Right? Like I said, their fingers and thumbs are everywhere, in all the pies. Right? And then you got the global corporations and shit. Like there's just on every level, Esau is there, corrupting everything, destroying earth, destroying people. Committing more wickedness. Right? And they use guys like this and groups like this to do that. And it don't need to be the whole police department. It just needs to be a few men in certain places, man. Gatekeepers and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this is where I want to start, right? Psalm 73, verse 3 says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." Right? The wicked are prospering right now because they're in rulership. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked, right? "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men," right? Because they can sweep certain things under the carpet, right? They can get away with stuff that you can't get away with. My man can do the tax evasion thing and, it's legal. You know what I mean? Some way, somehow, right? You do it now, bro, you going away. Ask Wesley, right? Wesley Snipes know all about that, right? If they want to get you, they will get you, right? But, the Bezos of the world and all these different types of dudes, right? They don't, they can get away with shit. They got money and lawyers and shit. They can get away with stuff. All right, that's just an example, right? But it goes, all these different facets of this world, man. They can get away with stuff. They'll go to a country and blow it up and tell you, oh, we're protecting people, but you go do, you do something right to somebody, it's crime, it's murder, and you go away. But these dudes, it was self-defense or some stupid shit, Well, they said, sticks and stones, you know what I mean? They said they were going to do this. We went there and destroyed them first. Well, you can't do that, though. It's just, it's double standards everywhere you go, but, that's Esau's worldview, right? "So they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore, pride compasseth about them as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment," right? Because they feel protected, so they feel that they can do what the fuck they want to do. Right? These elites that walk around the world, walk around the earth, they don't have no troubles, bro. They don't scare of nobody. Even though they be frail. These Edomites are fucking frail and old and shit. Right? These elites, right? But they're not concerned. They're not worried about what's going on in the world like that. They just get on with their lives. Why are they doing what the fuck they want to do? worrying about no scandals and shit, you know. They ain't worried about nothing like that, right? Their eyes stand up with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt, right? All these wicked Edomites and these peons, puppets underneath them, they're corrupt, right? And speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily, right? So like I said, this guy knows that, look, this case is on me now, but this judge, is gonna overlook this thing now. Like, yeah, he's gonna let me off. So you're not stressing like other people would stress. You ain't got that kind of connection. You know what I'm saying? Like, your bestie is the judge. That's you know what I mean. Is looking over your case. You ain't got that. These men are sworn by oath to defend one another, even if there's some heinous crime. Jimmy can get away with it for life until his grave, and then guess what? Jimmy was doing this. It's like, what? And you couldn't find out before, but these men knew. These men already knew, but they didn't do nothing about it. You see what I'm saying? Right? That's what it is, man. The man showed each other favor, but that's you can't have that. You can't have the wicked showing favor to the wicked, because justice is not getting done. So they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Right? So that's pretty much it, man. But yeah. So yeah, as I said, pardon me. Corruption and wickedness is systemic in this world, man. And like I said, there's all these different groups and people out here, within these organizations that's hindering it and corrupting it, controlling it. But they're gonna play like, oh, we don't do nothing, we don't do nothing, we don't control nothing, we don't have no influence, and don't do anything wicked, and They, of course, they're gonna say all that. Who's gonna admit to it? You know what I mean? Come on. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Lord willing, this has been edifying. I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.